Luke's here in the studio with me. I'm happy to say hello, Luke.
Good to be here.
So let's start looking at the numbers. Shall we start with the state of the parties?
Yeah, so this week we have Reform UK ahead, as they have been for quite a while now, but it's a bit of a narrower lead than some of the ones we've seen. They're on 26% of the vote. The Conservatives and the Labour Party are both on 22% of the vote, so they're just 4 points behind Reform now, and the Liberal Democrats and Greens tied for fourth with 12% each.
OK, and Nigel Farage, we talk about rather a lot lately. His numbers are looking not especially positive.
No, they're most certainly not. It does seem like recent events and the controversy surrounding that £5 million gift is starting to hurt perceptions of Nigel Farage. He hit minus 24 net approval this week. That is the lowest approval score that we have had for Nigel Farage since the general election. Drops below Zach Polanski for the first time since Polanski's approvals tumbled after his response to the Golders Green attack, which some people didn't think was appropriate. But on the flip side, it's a bit of a tale of divergent stories in our approval rating because Kemi Badenoch becomes the first party leader since 2024 to enter positive net approval. It's the first time she's been above the waterline. She's on +3. As I say, it's her highest since becoming leader, and that is level with Andy Burnham on +3. Of course, he's not Labour Party leader just yet, but it's an interesting time. You know, we've got so used to unpopular politicians, and yet we've got the incoming Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition both above the waterline, and I wonder how long that will last.
So let's take him in turn. Nigel Farage, is there any data which explains why his numbers are sinking?
Yeah, I mean, what is very clear is that the controversy around that £5 million gift has cut through. 84% of Britons say they've heard at least something about it, and they are much more likely to say that it reflects negatively on the Reform leader. So 7 in 10 Britons say that it reflects negatively on him. They're a bit more positive about his decision to fight a by-election, but still more negative than not. And I think one of the things that will particularly worry Nigel Farage in this new data is that we asked, if he wins the by-election, and yet the Standards Committee finds against him later on, should there be another by-election? And actually 53% of Britons say, even if he wins this one, if the Standard Committee reopens its investigation and finds him guilty, he should face another by-election. Just 23% say that he shouldn't.
Right, and Farage, of course, terms it all as a fight with the establishment, doesn't he? Establishment being, well, the other parties, just about, well, there's that general term, the establishment, those in power, some shadowy figures, they suggest, in the background, and certainly the media. What do the public make of all that? Well,
I think it's fair to say that Britons don't think that he is being judged unfairly by Parliament. In fact, almost two-thirds of Britons, 65%, say that the rules are being applied to Farage in the same way as any other member of Parliament. And, they tend to think that, people should go through the proper process. Only 1 in 5 say the rules are being used unfairly. There's a bit more sympathy, I should say, for the argument that perhaps the parliamentary standards process should change so that it's, maybe it should be led by someone with legal or judicial experience rather than Parliament running its own investigations. And again, a bit more sympathy for his argument. He obviously made that challenge about people approaching family members. Most of the public say that journalists don't have a right to approach and question family.
I should always bear in mind that when you look at these numbers, most people disapprove of Nigel Farage, and his numbers have sunk. Of course, he never had a majority of support. He was, when they were doing pretty well, they were about 30 points, struggled to get above that. So you're going to get 70% of the public who are less likely to say anything complimentary about Farage to begin with, even on a good day for
absolutely. His approval ratings have never been positive, right? In our leader trackers, he's got a large part of the public. I think what has changed is now more of that group who said, look, I'm willing to give this lot a try. I'm willing to maybe roll the dice on Reform, even if I'm not fully sold on him. I think it has caused some of that group, certainly from our focus groups, to step back and say, oh, is this just going to be more of the same with Nigel Farage?
If we look down at Clacton, the only name that most people would recognise if they did would be Count Binface as the one standing against Nigel Farage. How's Binface doing?
Well, this is a poll of the nation rather than of the constituency, but we asked the public who they would like to win that by-election in Clacton. So we asked people across Britain, and 34% said that they would like Count Binface to win. 29% said they would like Nigel Farage to win. So a Binface lead of 5 points there. Should say that, of course, amongst those who voted Reform at the last general election, of which there were a lot in Clacton, 76% backed Nigel Farage, just 14% would back Count Binface. And
yes.
Clacton is not the nation as a whole.
It is not. Although a leakage of 14% is not insignificant.
No, it's not. It's not. There is definitely a group of 2024 supporters for whom Farage has lost a bit of the shine in some of the other contests that we've seen. For instance, in Makerfield, we know that actually a group of former Reform supporters have moved to Restore, backing Rupert Lowe's party there.
OK. Look, Manchester. Andy Burnham, he quit the job of mayor of Manchester. There were fears, highly publicised fears, that Keir Starmer, who didn't want Burnham to stand, was reportedly worried about Labour losing Manchester, the Manchester mayoral contest, to Reform. There have been polls in the Manchester mayoral contest, haven't there?
There have. So there have been a couple of polls which have come out. There was one early in the campaign which suggested it might be a close race between Reform and Labour, but with Labour ahead. But interestingly, this week there was a poll from Find Out Now, and this found that on first preferences, because of course it's a two-round vote, Labour would be on 38%. It would be the Greens in second on 22%, and Reform in third on 19%. And what that would mean was that rather than it being that Labour and Reform head-to-head in the final round, it would be a Labour-Green head-to-head in the final there, which, of course, would be interesting. It suggests, that polling suggests that Labour would do very well in the runoff against the Greens, but that will be a stark reversal of fortune for Reform, because in those local elections, which I know politics feels like it moves at lightning speed, which were just, 2 months ago, slightly more than that now, Reform topped the poll in Greater Manchester across those contests. So to not even make it into the second round, and this is just one poll, we should say, there are others, and there'll be others coming out in the next week or so, but the fact that they wouldn't even get to the second round, I think, would suggest a degree of slippage.
All right. Now, Andy Burnham is on the threshold of number 10 Downing Street. What do people want?
Well, we asked when Keir Starmer got in, do you want incremental, smaller change, or do you want larger, more radical change? And when Starmer got in, people said, no, we want small adjustments, gradual changes. That has flipped. When we now ask about Andy Burnham, people are more likely to say they want larger and more radical changes.
Are they clear on what kind of changes?
The big thing that comes up is on cost of living. They want to see more government action on cost of living. They like the devolution stuff. They support it. But cost of living is what they say is the priority.
All right, Tryl, good to talk to you. Let's do it again next week. Every time we meet, there is more to talk about. I've no doubt there will be more about this time next week. Tryl there from More in Common, and our regular